first went through Russia, 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 it was all bullshit.
But was it all bullshit? Because I don't know. That was from 2020, and well, this is from this week. Check this out.
Anders Smirnoff appeared yesterday in a Las Vegas federal court to face charges over allegedly lying to the FBI, particularly about claiming that Joe Biden accepted bribes to benefit Hunter's businesses. Now, it's a claim that's central to the impeachment probe and one often repeated by Republicans. But the bombshell came when David Weiss, that same special counsel who has charged Hunter Biden, alleged that Smirnoff lied and that he admitted to working with Russian intelligence officials involved in passing on a story about Hunter Biden. Now, prosecutors allege the contacts were, quote, extensive and extremely recent, and that he's, quote, actively peddling new lies that could impact the U.S. elections.
Yeah, I mean, the whole damn thing blew up this week. I mean, the whole thing. The basis, the entire Hunter Biden and the president informant, Burisma giving him freaking, loans or bribes, and it was all lies fed by the Russians. And the Burisma CEO said that. Said it. But now the one guy they held all their hopes on, everything they hung their hopes on, has said it was bullshit. The FBI, David Weiss, the guy they appointed to be the special prosecutor because they demanded it, a Republican appointee from Delaware, has indicted the guy. He's a freaking Russian agent, for God's sake. So what did Congress do? Well, what would you do if you were the Speaker of the House? Would you end the investigation? Would you launch an investigation into how this became a thing? No, not Mike Johnson. You take a fucking vacation and go visit this guy. Yeah, there he is at Mar-a-Lago. And the punchline of that picture is, remember what happened to the last freaking guy, the Speaker of the House, when he went down to Mar-a-Lago and did a thumbs up with Trump? Well, guess what? He's the ex-speaker now. So, hey, what's the old saying? If you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. I hope it is, because Mike Johnson, Moses Mike, is full of shit. He had to go down there and kiss daddy's ring. So there you go. So Trump, I love the picture too. You see how Trump dressed up, between rounds of golf to meet the Speaker of the House. I literally joined the Army in 1983 when Ronald Reagan was the president. During the Cold War, we were pushing back against the Soviet Union. The first 10 years of my military career were all spent studying. My first tour was in Korea, so I had to study North Korea. Then I had to study, contingencies for the Fulda Gap. If anybody knows that history, if you're old like me, the Fulda Gap was where we fully expected the Warsaw Pact to invade Germany. So we had entire war plans based on stopping them in the Fulda Gap. Man, how things have changed, right? Now they're buddies with the Russians. Our friend, the liberal redneck himself, Trae Crowder, had something to say about that just this week. Watch this.
Every American understood that Russia, or at least the Russian government, was our enemy, right? At least until the Cold War was famously ended by renowned pugilist and diplomat Rocky Balboa. That's how it was. Yet today you have American boomers who grew up in that era openly supporting Russia all the time. Why? Well, it's at least partly because Daddy Trump says so, of course, but it's also partly because they've identified Putin as being anti-woke, and that's kind of all that matters. Sure, Russia has long opposed the foundational precepts of our democracy, but these MAGA types see Putin over there saying things like, in Russia, we have only 2 genders and no black people. And they're like, say less, buddy, that's all I needed to hear. Right? That's like, Jesus Christ, nobody let these people find out how much jihadists hate the gays, or else things are going to get real weird around here.
Yeah, man, they love some authoritarianism and some anti-wokeness. Well, the good news is I've actually got Trae Crowder here to talk about it some more. So we're going to have a great conversation, have a few laughs, I imagine. Also talk about some serious stuff, because if you know Trae Crowder, he's also got some podcasts where he reviews the news himself. He's not all the yucks. He's a pretty serious guy. With that, you know what? I'm Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy. Let's get on with the show. Oh, man, welcome back to the show. I still am Fred Wellman, your host, still on Democracy FP Wellman. Man, every week we say it, every week it's true. It was another fucking crazy week. And this week, and the funny thing is, and Matt will appreciate this, you guys know there was a run of like 6 weeks where I didn't change the opening bit because it was the same. And I did the same thing that today. Is that the bit this week was something again. Every time I think I've seen all that I can see with Donald Trump talk, Mike Johnson kisses butt, and another piece of the Republican wet dream of a Biden impeachment fall apart. I literally opened that 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, and it's still true. And we're going to talk about that because you saw up front in the introductory piece about the fact that Russia investigated the whole connection to Burisma is falling through, and yet the Republicans won't let through. Jim Jordan was just on TV saying, "Oh no, it's still true. It's not true." And you saw that bit from Trae Crowder. Trae Crowder's freaking here. I'm so happy. So Trae Crowder first gained international attention in 2016 for his hugely viral series of liberal redneck comedic porch rant videos. Since then, Trae has written a best-selling book, The Liberal Redneck Manifesto, Dragging Dixie Out of the Dark, touring, hosting a podcast, like 3, right, Trae? You are a machine, my man. Welcome to the show, man.
Oh, what's up, Fred? Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Talking about stuff.
Yeah. Well, I missed you in St. Louis. I'm sorry about that. It was a pre-Valentine's Day weekend. And as much as I like you.
Yeah. Well, you know, it makes a good date night.
It would have been. Yeah.
Usually it's a lot of time. That's typically the only way conservatives end up at my shows is they've been drugged there by their liberal spouse. You know what I mean? And typically those people, they're the one, they'll be like, you know, I don't agree with anything you said, but you are pretty funny.
You're funny.
That's that's the best. That's the best compliment I can hope for.
I love it. We saw Brent Terhune here, you know, and he was, you know,
that's my buddy. I love Brent. Me and him go back.
And he's the damn nicest guy too. That's the thing
he's
about
such
Brent.
a sweetheart.
Isn't he a nice guy?
Yeah, I'm going to be in his stomping grounds, Indianapolis. I'm going to be there on tour next week. He's probably also going to be on the road, but if he's not, I'm going to make sure that he comes by. So if you're in Indy, I ain't even talked to Brent. If Brent's in town, if you're in Indy, come see me in Indy.
There you go.
But if you like Brent too, if he's in town, I'm going to make him come and do some jokes on those shows also.
So
if
funny.
I can get him.
I can't imagine the two of you together. You know, we opened the bit with your latest video about this Russia stuff, and you said it best. It's like, well, it's all that anti-wokeness, you know, and it just keeps going, man. I mean, your video goes for a while there, but I don't know if you saw it, and of course the shenanigans with Tucker being over there, the grocery store excursion. I mean, what the hell is going on with this stuff, man? I mean, does it make any sense to you at all?
No, I mean, I don't know. Yes and no. No, because it's like I call them the papaws. People get mad at me because I have plenty of like boomer fans and stuff. They're like, hey, I'm a liberal and I'm, I'm older and whatnot. And it's like, I mean, just the royal pap. I don't mean you know what I mean? You know the type of papaws I'm talking about.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Papaws. But anyway, like you're more stereotypical boomers and stuff for people that like grew up in school being drilled on how to, survive a nuclear holocaust, which obviously was never going to work. But, that was like they had drilled into every, like Ivan might drop the bomb at any minute. They're an existential threat. They want to kill us all. And that was like ingrained in the culture for decades and decades. And then these same people today wear shirts that say like, I'd rather be a, Russian than a Democrat or whatever. And I do think it's the anti-wokeness thing, but I think it also started for them just when they got the impression that like, Trump and Putin were boys and they were they had some kind of thing going on because, they got this cultish, slavish devotion to Trump and anybody that's on their side and aligned against the, us commies on the, we're the commies, but the commies are the good guys now, except unless if they mean the liberal type of commie, but you know what I mean? It's also left is right, up is down. It makes no sense. And Tucker belying that he hasn't taken very many stateside grocery shopping trips, you know what I mean? By being just amazed at the concept of that, like, cart return coin slot thing or whatever. It's like we got Aldi's here and they've been doing that for as long as I can remember, you know. So
like 30 years. It's such a giveaway. Anyway, the punchline too, man, is that's a French grocery store chain. It's not even a Russian. He's like, oh, look at this rate. It's like that's literally a French grocery store that he was in. It's not even an actual Russian, And the money he spent.
Like they can't help but just step in it. You know what I mean? Because they don't. They ain't down with France of all the countries. You know what I mean? Like that's got to be some egg on their face right there. Remember freedom fries and all that.
Oh, yeah.
France is like. The gayest, Europeanist of all the European countries. They definitely ain't on the French side.
It's all very confusing to keep track of. Well, he was flying back when it's not funny, but Navalny was killed. And so Putin didn't even let him get out of the country basically before he dropped the bomb on him, and I think Tucker issued like a one sentence statement, the exact same one to all the news outlets saying, of course it's horrible, it's terrible, and I haven't seen shit from him since. I don't. Do you think he feels shame? I'm not sure if people like that feel shame at all.
No, I think they're like, medically incapable of feeling shame. They're also completely immune to irony as a general rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
has no effect on him. But yeah, right before that happened with Navalny, Tucker was giving some interview and got asked about Putin and his tactics and all that. And he said something like, well, if you're a leader, you got to kill people. That's just how it goes, right? And then when Putin kills a guy for, showing dissent against him or whatever, then he's got to be like, well, of course, I didn't mean like that. Of course, that's bad just because it's a real thing that really happened that people are really talking about. So now I have to show some semblance of, humanity. Yeah. But when he was just talking in the abstract, he's like, you throw some people out of windows, you poison some here and there. What are you going to do? It's all, all part of the job description. So yeah, he's obviously full of it.
And the timing was just, freakishly, recent. It can't be. It's literally got to be Putin as a way of showing himself, and that's what he does. I mean, you can't put it past these guys, and then they continue doing this. And like I said, we opened it with the discussion, the fact that this whole Biden impeachment thing with the Burisma thing, this guy is a freaking Russian agent. I mean, he literally is a Russian agent.
Like I said, man, they can't help but step in it every time. It's like. You watch them talk with, as much conviction as they can muster on that subject for weeks and weeks. And it's like anything they ever brought up, it'd be like, we got a real bombshell for you. Everybody sit down. You're not ready for this. Joe Biden once sort of helped his son buy a truck and then later got paid back for it or whatever. And everybody's like, that was the whole thing. So it was always like kind of a comedy of errors the whole way. But this is definitely the cherry on top. This coming out that they're like, their deep throat for this case is actually a Russian, intelligence agent or whatever the deal is. And they're still trying to act like, well, that doesn't change anything. It's like, it kind of changes
a little bit might change it.
At least alters the context a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
I had a guest on here a few months ago, great guy, Dennis Aftergut. He's a former federal prosecutor. And one of my favorite clips of the show, it was our first show on the Midas Touch Network, I think Matt one day. It was like our first show on the Midas Touch Network. And Dennis said, I run the clip all the time because I turned it into a GIF because he's like, you have to understand, Fred, Jim Jordan's entire thing is faceplant. It's all that Jim Jordan gets. All he can do is faceplant. It's his number one skill is face planting, and it's just that's all he does.
So it makes sense. He's one of the most well-known or recognizable faces of the modern day GOP because again, that's sort of like a party platform at this point. Is face planting. That's sort of their whole thing. So the fact that he excels at that makes him actually overqualified for his position. Within that particular party. But yeah, I mean, he's never accomplished any actual thing, which again, the modern day Congress is like, puts him high up in the ranks, I guess, because they're not known for doing much over there. But he's a particularly egregious case.
Yeah, the goal is always to get on TV. I mean, honestly, they do stuff, and we had Julia Jeske on the show the other day. She watches Fox News all the time, and she says, "Literally, that is the plan. It's a step-by-step process. You say something outrageous." In the hearing, you get a clip of it. You're on Hannity that night or Ingram that night talking about it. It is just literally one for one. And they raise money. I know I'm a political consultant in my other job. And I got to tell you, a major news hit, a cable news hit, you'll raise $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on blinking an eye. That's why they're doing it. I mean, it's a 1-for-1 exchange for money into their campaign coffers. And it just.
So what is that? But since you brought it up now, I'm curious. I'm interested since you do that in your day job or your other job, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
So how does that actually function though? Do they get a hit? They, get a clip out there that's making some noise and then they pick up the phone to people that they know they get money from or the people with the money
hit them up, man.
That?
They go right to the website. Yeah, they go. Yeah.
Right. Just because, it just raises their profile. And then the people are like, oh, I should give them some more money. That's right. That's right. They exist and are crazy. And therefore, I need to go open up the checkbook again. So it really is that simple, huh?
There you have it. Yeah, it really is that simple. It's shockingly ridiculously easy. And they'll send an email out. What they'll do is they'll send an email out to their 1 million person email list with a clip of the show, and they'll raise money off. It's literally just a money machine. That's the whole system. And when you realize that, that's the dirty secret of being in politics is when you realize that, and it's not comfortable for you when you do it for a living.
Well, even just when I first started having any kind of contact with politicians or would-be politicians through doing this, I'll do a fundraiser for a Democrat or something here and there, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And it was naive, but I never had really looked into it. But I remember when I had the realization, it's like, oh my God, 90% of that job is just asking people for money or trying to get money. You know what I mean? And that I never had any real interest in pursuing that anyway. But as soon as I found that out, I was like, no, because I have a very, very hard stance aversion against asking people for anything really for some reason. I think
I have the same problem.
You know.
Yeah. I looked at running for a while. I actually ran for I ran for mayor of Peachtree City, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and back in 2001. Obviously, there was right before 9/11 dropped me out. I was running for mayor of Peachtree City, and I got mobilized in the army on September 11th. Yeah. So I got the hook. They threw a war and invited all my friends. But you're right. It is dialing for dollars. And you have to, because that's the only way you can compete. And it's the hardest thing for most candidates. The idea of having, especially a first time candidate, having just dial for dollars to call time, they call it. It's uncomfortable as hell. And that's the system, unfortunately. Because honestly, if you don't have the money, you don't win. I mean, I do a thing called Forgotten Democrats, which I think you did a Blue Tennessee event, which is our state level. That's one of our state level. So we do Blue Missouri, so on the federal level, and that's it.
Okay.
So many of these candidates don't raise the money. I mean, if they figured out, somebody did a scientific study, believe it or not. Boy, this is totally different than we scripted, I think, Matt. But they did a study and they showed that it's essentially for a House district, for a Congress district, you need like 33 cents per voter. Anyway, it adds up to about $200,000 to run a campaign that is competitive in a House district for Congress. The candidate's got to raise about $200,000. That means they can hire staff, they can buy signs, they can do mailers, they can do commercials, all those things. And last cycle, 2022, I think 126 Democratic nominees for Congress never raised $200,000. So they never met that threshold, and that's why you get this cycle. These incumbents stay; they have no competition. They don't even go. They don't have to go home.
It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, sort of, doesn't it? It's like a vicious cycle. Like those Democratic candidates in those particular races or in those areas are often written off as being lost causes, so no resources are put towards them. But because no resources are put towards them, that effectively guarantees that it'll be a lost cause. So
there you go. Yeah,
things don't change.
And we've seen it in large parts, and you see it in Tennessee. That's why you got to say. And look, I was going to go right. You're from Tennessee. I spent 7 years of my life there, as well as Alabama, Georgia. It's like the entire South has lost their damn minds. I mean, what happened to that beautiful state? I mean, I don't know if you saw it. They blocked a resolution honoring Allison Russell for winning the Grammy. Who's a black folk artist, for those who don't know who she is. But they passed the part. It was, by the way, in the same one, they passed one to honor Paramore, which, of course, as you may, because the lead singer of Paramore is from Tennessee. God bless her. She said, F you, I don't want your damn honor. But it's almost like they're not even bothering to pretend anymore, right?
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, it's like what's going on with the South and everything. That's why does somebody obviously grow. I don't know if y'all can tell. I'm a Southerner.
Yeah, I get that.
I live in Southern California now, but I'm from deep rural Tennessee, and it was no progressive utopia growing up, but it really does feel like I used to argue all the time with people. I'd be like, look, man, I know we got problems here. We still do. But compare my hometown now. I'm saying I would say this when I was a teenager in my 20s. I'd be like, compare this town now to when my grandpa was growing up here, or my dad, or whatever, in terms of race or any of that stuff, or homophobia, or you name it. I have an openly gay uncle who had a successful business in the town square. There was two other openly gay business owners in town. Nobody was throwing bricks through the windows and stuff. I was like, it's getting better. Things are getting better. And I used to genuinely believe that. And then right before the dawn of the Trump era, we had a Republican governor, Bill Haslam. He was a Republican, but he was the old type of not fully insane Republican. You know what I'm saying? He was like, your daddy's Republicans or whatever. It's all about fiscal stuff, just sort of an empty suit, but didn't openly hate people and was all about fiscal things or whatnot. And with that Republican governor, Tennessee became, at the time, the first state to make a community college free for its residents, for Tennesseans, right? And that was a big news story at the time. And it's things like that would happen periodically where I could be proud, right, of Tennessee. I can't even remember what that feels like, because it's every Southerner knows the defining dichotomy of being from the South is the balance of pride and shame that we all carry with us everywhere. That's what defines us at our core. And it's been way heavily weighted towards the shame end of the spectrum for me for the past little bit. Because for the first time in my life, it's it really does seem like it's getting worse. When I was younger, I didn't think that was possible. I thought that ultimately, from a high enough perspective, we only move in one direction forward. We only progress. But it feels like we're backsliding for the first time in my life in this recent era, and it's upsetting. I mean, you know, to say nothing, you mentioned these other things Tennessee's done, but I mean, hell, this week on top of all that, they're trying to make it illegal to buy cold beer at a gas station. It's like, what is this? It's like I'm the liberal outcast, and I'm like, I thought this was America. What happened to freedom? What happened to small government? You know what I mean? You tell me a hard-working, red-blooded, tax-paying American man can't buy a cold beer after his job? What's going on in this damn country? Country's going to hell, but it's conservative Christians doing things like that, and it's just the whole thing, man. It's confounding and upsetting,
and has nothing to do, like we said, that was the split. I actually took classes in grad school from some famous Republicans. David Gergen taught a class at my grad school, and about what is the Republican Party. That, you know, that strange. This is 2006. So you had the social conservatives, you had the Christian nationalists, you had the defense hawks. I'm a defense hawk. That's the biggest reason I was Republican as long as I was as a military guy, and I believed in a strong defense, foolishly that I was. And then you had these, like you said, these are small government types, and a lot of those just peeled away. And now it's all about social conservatives. It's all about it's about the culture. Everybody calls it the culture war, but you're seeing that writ large. That's a perfect example. The idea of banning cold beer so people will drink less has nothing to do with small government. You're right, but they still pretend to be small government, right? It's like
actual alcoholics will drink hand sanitizer and stuff. Like, you think they won't drink a warm beer? You know what I'm saying? Like, you like thinking that you take the beer out of the refrigerator is going to keep Otis back if he really wants to get drunk on a Sunday or whatnot. Like, no.
He'll drink it warm, you know, exactly.
Not going to do anything. I used to work with a redneck at the Clay County Highway Department who preferred his beer, not just warm, but hot. He'd buy a 6-pack of cold beer and put it on the top of his bush hog in the middle of July and like heat it up and then drink it, you know, while working for the county in the middle of the day. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
A different time. Well, you know, it's the same thing as like, hey, here's my iPhone, but we need to ban these dirty books so kids don't see them. And they're giving, you know, like, okay, you know what's on here, right? you know what's on here, right?
The banning the books, trying to ban sex education and stuff, or like the whole idea of abstinence only education. It's like, you think that's going to stop hormonal teenagers from doing nasty stuff? Like, that's just what teenagers do. I know it's uncomfortable for all of us, but we can remember what it was like. They're hormone monsters. That's what they are, dude. Like, dude, that's not going to do anything. And all it's going to do is make it worse by, you know, removing any aptitude they might have for how to responsibly handle the situation, right? But you know, you can't.
I grew up here in St. Louis, and if you know that St. Louis, by the way, Midwest, as I say, and probably you mentioned about the South of shame and pride, and this is like Catholic school central, by the way. I mean, you can't swing it to a cat in St. Louis without hitting a Catholic school, right? And I went to public school because that's, you know, we didn't have that kind of money, and honestly, those are the worst, the most drunken, the most crazy, you know, freaky kids all went to those Catholic schools, you know, and participated in that. What was it, FCA, Christian athletes, you know, fellow Christian athletes. Like, that was where he met the tot chicks. You know what I mean? It was like, it's just delusional, man. They forgot.
Repression is a hell of a drug, man. I mean, everybody knows, like, PKs, preachers' kids, you know, being lunatics in a lot of ways. There's a lot of stereotypes about, you know, the infamous poop hole loophole, right? You know that one. Sure, you know that one. That's where
I have no idea.
Folks have to maintain their virginity. You know.
The poop hole.
And then the Mormons, which is like advanced Jesus, obviously, like they take that concept even further. They got even wilder loopholes out there. But yeah.
Oh, some of those stories coming out of the Mormon schools are so freaky. We can't probably talk about the my such that without getting, like, YouTube's going to demonetize if we get too far. You know what? That's a great place to take a sponsor break. So we got great sponsors. As always, let's hear from our sponsors. The older I get, the more I find myself wanting to be more intentional about the way I live, eat, and take care of my body. Mosh is a company founded by Maria Shriver and her son Patrick Schwarzenegger with a simple mission: to create a conversation about brain health through food, education, and research. Now, Maria's father suffered from Alzheimer's, and since then, she and Patrick have dedicated themselves to finding ways to help other families dealing with this debilitating disease. Mosh joined forces with the world's top scientists and functional nutritionists to go beyond your average protein bar with 6 delicious flavors, Each Mosh bar has 12 grams of protein and is made with ingredients to support brain health, like ashwagandha, lion's mane, collagen, and omega-3s. They also have a line of plant-based protein bars that come in 3 delicious flavors of their own. But here's the best part to make you feel good about this company. Mosh donates a portion of all proceeds from your order to fund gender-based brain health research through the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. Now, why gender-based? 2/3 of all Alzheimer's patients are women. Mosh is working closely to close the gap between women and men's health research. So, Mosh bars are truly delicious. I have a Mosh bar every morning before my walk. It's a perfect way to kickstart my day. My favorite Mosh bar is the Peanut Butter Crunch. It's incredible. Now, if you want to find ways to give back to others and fuel your body and your brain, Mosh bar is the perfect choice for you. Now, head to moshlife.com/Fred. You'll save 20% off plus free shipping in your first 6-count trial pack. That's 20% off plus free shipping in your first 6-count trial pack at moshlife.com/Fred. Thank you, Mosh, for all you do, and thank you for sponsoring this episode. Heart health and staying healthy, especially when you have family, friends, or loved ones that you want to be able to spend as much time with as possible, is so important. February is Heart Health Month in the United States, and more than half the population would still benefit from blood pressure support. Super Beats Heart Chews, the #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended way to support healthy blood pressure, and they even promote heart healthy energy without the stimulants. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beats are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And with over 40,000 5-star reviews and counting, people are raving about Super Beats Heart Chews. Super Beats Heart Chews are absolutely delicious and are truly much better than any alternative supplements out there. I take my Super Beats Heart Chews each morning, and it's really helped me kickstart my day. And after taking my Super Beats Heart Chews, I feel like I have more energy and I'm ready to take on the day. Super Beats Heart Chews support healthy circulation. So you not only get blood pressure support, you also get productive, heart healthy energy without the crash. So support your heart health with Super Beats Heart Chews. Get a free monthly supply of Super Beats Heart Chews on all bundles and a free full-sized bag of turmeric chews valued at $25 with your order by going to our spot, demoxybeats.com. Get this exclusive offer only at demoxybeats.com. That's demoxybeats.com. Check it out. I swear by them. All right, well, good. Well, we're cooling things off. Man, yeah, it is nuts, and that's before we talk, we were talking about Tennessee. I didn't even get to Tim Burchett, but we're going to leave that by the side. I talked about Tim Burchett last week because, if you know him, the Tennessee congressman, he's the one that said the shooter was an illegal alien, and he's for sure getting sued on that one, I think.
Yep.
So, the other thing we've got, and going back to the South is, over next door in Alabama, the Supreme Court just ruled that frozen embryos are children, and quoted the Bible in the ruling, and I've been reading articles ever since. People are freaking out because what this means is scary. I think,
Yeah, he's like the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, right?
Right.
Talking about exalting the glory of God and everything is created in His image and stuff. In his official judicial opinion, I mean, dude, that's I guess I shouldn't be surprised from it having grown up in the Bible Belt, but I find that very alarming. And then the whole frozen embryos being people thing, it's basically just going to kill IVF as a legitimate, option down there. At least the implications of it will, if they follow it through. And all that's going to do is hurt, the most responsible, prepared people for parenthood, right? The people that have because typically, obviously, painting with a broad brush here, but typically people that are doing that are people that have waited longer or that type of thing. And which means also usually, again, more stability, more money. They're better equipped. They're ready and willing and desiring of having a child. And, it's going to take them out of the game and leave nothing but, the teenage trailer babies and stuff, my people. And we already procreate at a very high rate anyway. We don't need any more help. But I'm saying it's almost like that's what Alabama wants, is just to further, just to fill it up as much as possible with more,
labor. I mean, that's awesome.
Uneducated.
They've said that, the labor pool. One of the things, you'll love this, here in Missouri, so they're trying to get, we call it a petition about to change we can do that. We have that initiative petition thing here in Missouri where when enough people sign up and get something on the ballot and you can vote for it and allegedly will change the law, but that's a whole nother story. However, there's one about reproductive freedom going on right now. And the state, I want to say the AG and the treasurer tried to say that it would cost, what was the number, Matt? It was some outrageous number, billions of dollars. And when the judge is like, what do you mean it's going to cost this money? It's just an initiative petition. They said, no, you understand is if we allow abortion, it's going to lower the workforce, the future workforce. And they ran a number that how many babies get aborted are future cheap labor. And they actually ran a number saying that abortion is going to cost the state a tax base. Which really shows the goal, right? I mean, it kind of they're kind of showing their colors on that one, but they literally put that in a court case filing saying, oh no, it's future labor we're losing because they're these babies.
I mean, it is kind of emblematic, I feel like, of what's going on there in a larger sense, because a lot of that culture war stuff you mentioned earlier, that is mostly what they talk about. A lot of that is ultimately just kind of like a smoke screen that hides the only thing they really care about, generally speaking, except for like the boogity true believers, some of them which are out there. Mostly they just care about, money, profit, their, oligarch puppet masters and that type of thing. And it's all about capitalism and the bottom line and all of that. And a lot of the culture war stuff is just a convenient way to get the papaws to the polls to vote against their own economic self-interest.
Well, that's
a lot of time.
I mean, it really is truly that. I mean, in the end, this was a call. And back to the IVF topic, I saw a OBGYN doctor did a bit, and she said right now, it's estimated that 15% of couples need that kind of help. And I have personal experience in it, not personally as needing it, because my ex-wife and I were really good at making babies. But I was involved in an effort by the Wounded Warrior Project in 2016 to try and get the VA to allow IVF, because believe it or not, there was the anti-abortion movement had put a little thing in the law in the 90s saying that VA could not offer any kind of reproductive health care or reproductive assistance through IVF or other means to help wounded veterans get help. And it created a situation during the War on Terror where if a soldier or a service member got blown up or hurt, and so the way it works is when you're at Walter Reed, you're still in the Army. But when you leave Walter Reed, you're transferred over to /TRICARE/VA. And they were telling young soldiers that if you want to have kids, you should do it now while you're in Walter Reed. You could, because the DOD allowed IVF treatment, but the VA didn't by law.
Right.
So here's a kid recovering from losing both his legs, maybe, or his mobility. We had one young man I work with who had gotten hit by a sniper, who was paralyzed from the neck down. You should have kids too. You know what I mean? A 23-year-old wife. Right. And so we fought it, and in the end, we ended up getting the law changed. But every year, the same people who oppose it try to defund it. It's legal now, but what they do is they work with the anti-abortion guys in Congress to defund the actual program, so they can't actually get it. It's just because it all comes down to embryos that aren't used are aborted.
Right, exactly. That's right. It's not that they have a problem with the whatever, when the process goes successfully, the ones the embryos that are implanted and carried to term, obviously they love that. It's a beautiful little miracle baby or whatever.
Right.
But with the way the process works, you inevitably have all these other embryos that then don't get used, and then and that counts as murder to them when they are disposed of, which is of course ridiculous. Also, that very typical of the VA, that story just told from what I've heard anecdotally. Yeah. So speaking of irony, it's
they fought it.
I
mean, to their credit, we had their backing on it. They fought it with us. Interesting enough, what we did to succeed with that was that same young man I mentioned to you who's paralyzed from his neck down. We met with a congresswoman from Alabama who said she was the #1 veteran supporting congresswoman. And my wonderful couple that we brought up there to lobby told Leigh, she goes, if you say you support veterans, but literally part of my recovery from being shot in combat is having children, having a happy family, having a real family. And this couple, this is a shit story. This young couple got a free home from one of the veterans groups. I think Purple Heart Homes gave them a free home that was mobile accessible for him with his wheelchairs. And they had to take out a mortgage on their free home so they could get money to pay for IVF treatment in the civilian market.
Yep. Ain't that America?
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of those stories, man. We all hear stories like that all the time and get like sort of numbed. I mean, plenty of us still hear it like, damn, that ain't right or whatever. But we're so used to hearing stories like that. But I feel like people from other countries and stuff will hear stories like that. And they're like, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard, in my life. I don't know about how IVF works in other countries. I just know any kind of medical situation. Like there's people, Americans have all these memes and stuff about like refusing to call an ambulance. Just, you know what I mean? I'll take an Uber to the hospital because who can afford that type of shit. And people in every other Western democracy on earth, they're like, what the fuck is going on over there? You got to pay for ambulance rides? Like people, we become like desensitized to how not cool the whole thing.
The whole thing is. And if you experience, I'm sure you've traveled, you go overseas, and I was in the Azores of all places like 4 years ago for a vacation, and I had a vertigo attack. Sometimes I get vertigo. And so apparently it's another thing. Great veteran life is great. Anyway, so I had an attack of vertigo, and my then wife drove me to the hospital, and we were super nervous, man. You roll up to a Portuguese hospital. I don't know what's going on. We go in, it's packed. It's crazy. It's a little dingy, not going to lie. We finally get back quickly. We get back, and oh my God, I mean, everybody was brilliant. The doctors, the nurses were all shockingly attractive too, which is a whole nother story. But like my ex-wife and I looked at her, I was like, is it me or it was like a soap opera. Everybody was so, but they're brilliant, and they did a great job. They gave me a CT, they gave me a heart attack check, they gave me a stroke check, all these things, every check you can imagine. I ended up getting, and all I needed was an IV, an anti-nausea IV, and some other stuff. Gave me some food, got me out. So we go to the front desk to check out. We go to check out, man, and we're like clenching our jaws because we're like, how much is this going to cost? It was 180 euros.
Right. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And the lady's like, do you want a receipt?
Crazy.
Yeah. She's like, do you want a receipt so you can file for insurance and you get back to America? We're like, no point. Because that doesn't even break my threshold, Like that's 2 aspirin for a hospital visit in America, like literally. Right. Literally. Yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely out of control and has been for a long time. Yeah. Yeah. Well, things are crazy right now. Last thing I want to hit you about, again, one more Southern thing. South Carolina, our friend Nikki Haley has suddenly just developed a spine. I mean, do you ever watch all this? She's really going at it now. And did you see her clever little trick this week where she had a press conference and made it sound like she was dropping out, so Fox carried it live, which
tricked everybody into what? Yeah, right.
Pretty slick. I mean, I'm not a fan because she's still the same old person she always was. But you got to give her credit for like playing the game on them and doing all of it. I can't help but wonder,
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm not a fan of Nikki Haley either. But like anybody on the right that is in any capacity pushing back on, Trump at all and Trump's whole thing, or like trying to at least take some jabs at Trump. It's like, even though like Chris Christie never had a shot, but that was one thing I did appreciate about him was how, he'd get some jabs in or whatever. Cause it's like, I feel like it's the only type of thing that Trump understands. And I don't know if, I don't know what the end game is in her mind. If it's like, is she just trying to stick around and be like the default one in case something goes down with him or something like that? Something actually happens.
That's my theory.
Right. I've heard other people say that too. And I guess that does make sense. I mean, why not? I feel like we're not lucky enough and the universe isn't like just enough for anything like that to actually happen with him. Like I fully expect him to be there in November. I don't think we're going to get out of it that easy, but anybody over there who's talking trash to him in any capacity, I'm
great.
for it.
Right. It helps. And the funny thing, my friend Jeff Timmer up in Michigan, he's one of my former Lincoln Project colleagues, says it best. He always says the only thing stopping Trump from being the Republican nominee and going all the way to November is a jail cell or a coronary. Other than that, he's going, he's going to be the guy, and
right. And right. So maybe she's thinking maybe if one of those things comes through, I don't know, but she's also made some good points, that's like you get real upset thinking about Trump and how well he still seems to do and how his cult is still behind him super fervently and all that. But then, she points out how some of the numbers shake out in the Republican primary. And it's like, he's getting like 49% of the voters in New Hampshire or whatever. There's a huge chunk of Republicans who are Republicans who don't want anything to do with Trump, it seems, and that's a lot, and it should be concerning to the party at large. Yeah. And I don't care about the Republican Party at large, but when she points, it kind of makes me feel a little better trying to think about it that way. My concern with that is like, sure, but when it is him in November, how many of those people are going to, line up either way? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that's typically what they do. It doesn't mean they're going to come to the dark side over here with all us godless heathens, or even just sit at home, which I would take at this point out of them. So that's the thing that kind of remains to be seen. But I don't know. I guess some of them still got a brain over there.
Well, you saw it in New York 3. I don't know if you probably, I know you've been tours, you probably don't see it, but they interviewed with Santos's seat.
Mazzy.
The Mazzy lady. Yeah, Philip. And that's Tom Swazi, which is, I always got that wrong. And it was interesting because like a number of journalists were on TV afterwards saying, we talked about last week, how they literally, the voters were telling them like, look, I'm a Republican, I vote for Trump, but I'm voting for Swazi because these guys are fucking useless, basically. They just passed on the border bill, and they're fed up. So it gave me that. Sometimes this is weird, man. You're not gonna believe this, but I still have optimism. I had this weird kernel of optimism. I know, and it's like, okay, so maybe some people, even being involved in politics, 4 or 5 years now, and everything else, I still have, and of course as a veteran, where's that come from? But people are seeing it. I think they're seeing the incompetence. They're seeing. I mean, look, we were going back to the beginning of our conversation. Going back, circling further back. What did Mike Johnson do when they found out the Republican, that it was an informant? When they found out it was all fake? When they didn't pass a bill? They took a 2-week vacation. They ran from town and like cowards. It is. They know they're in trouble. I think they know. But
I used to always consider myself ultimately with this type of stuff, politically and culturally and whatnot, socially, ultimately an optimist. Because like I said, I very strongly believe that at the end of the day, from a macro enough perspective, we do still move in the right direction generally, and things tend to get better for more people as we go along. Yeah. And this current era has really tested that philosophy of mine more than any preceding one. But I'd still try to be optimistic. I've got sons. I've got school-age sons and whatnot. So it'd be hard for me to sleep at night if I didn't muster some semblance of hope. So, no, I'm there. I'm with you on that. But, it's they say, may you live in interesting times. It's an old curse, right? Yeah. Well, that's what we're all doing.
I like it to be less interesting. Well, with that, my good friend, I'm going to let you go. I know you got a lot going on. You got boys and everything else. But I can't let you go without saying, where in the world are you going next? And how's that going? And how goes the tour? How long is it going? You just announced more dates, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm kind of, a lot of comedians are like that. It was not really like a band. Some comics are, but I don't like put together one big multi-week tour and then I'm off the road for a while. I'm kind of just perpetually on tour, sort of every weekend or every other weekend, but I come back home in between. So next weekend, like I said earlier, I'll be at Helium in Indianapolis. Going to try to get Brent Terhune to come out if he's in town. He may be on the road himself. Then I'm going to got the DC Improv coming up in Winchester, Virginia, and then I got like some Southern California dates in the near future and Pittsburgh and a bunch of other places. So you can find all that at TraeCrowder.com. You can also find links to the books and whatnot you mentioned at TraeCrowder.com. So it's TRAE Crowder.com. That's also how you can follow me on your preferred social media platform. Just look up Trae Crowder and check the stuff out.
We'll put it up. We'll put it up on the show. If you're watching, we'll put it in the show notes. People can find you. I really appreciate you, man. Keep it up. Keep making us laugh. Keep hanging in there. Stay optimistic. I'm
gonna try.
Yeah, man. It isn't easy from where we're from right now, but it is what it is. So appreciate you, man. Thanks for
right on.
All right, brother.
Yeah, good to be here.
See you soon. Cheers. Man, what a great conversation. I loved, as I was getting ready for the show, I knew Trae from just his shorts on YouTube and Instagram, and he's freaking hilarious. But then I watched his podcast, and I recommend you do. Go to TraeCrowder.com. You can see links to all of his podcasts. He's got 2 or 3. He's freaking crazy smart, too. I know you expected a bunch of bits. He's a smart guy, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I love that conversation. I love having guys like him on the show. So definitely check him out, TraeCrowder.com. You definitely want to check that out. In the meantime, things are still crazy. For those who've asked, a number of people had asked, I had a little tantrum on Threads yesterday. The Mike Flynn lawsuit, which you've heard about here on the show, continues. His lawyers were supposed to have an answer to our motion for dismissal by this week. They instead filed an extension for a full month. We agreed to it for reasons. The judge agreed to it. So they now have till March 27th to file their response to our motion to dismiss. A motion to dismiss a lawsuit where they're asking for $150 million for one tweet. One. and they've asked to continue trying to fight this. We're going to continue fighting. Unfortunately, the longer they drag it out, the more it costs me, even with pro bono attorneys. Thank God for my pro bono attorneys, Mark Zayed, Brad Moss. But they're still expenses. They're still spending money on researchers and paralegals and travel. We're probably going to have to fly to Florida. If it goes to depositions, we're going to have to start really flying out and bringing in experts. And it gets expensive fast, even when your lawyers are incredible and doing it for free. So I would be eternally, forever grateful if you would be so kind as to consider donating to our legal defense fund. I hate begging for money. It's not a comfortable feeling for anybody like me. I'm an old soldier, but the fact is I'm not sitting on a pile of gold. As much as I love you guys, I'm not a rich man, but here I am. So if you be kind enough to consider donating to our legal defense fund, you can find links to it in all my pinned tweets and all my social media profiles. FP Wellman on Twitter, FP1 Official on Threads and Instagram. Also, I think we could put it in the bio if you like. Put it up on the screen here. The link, I can send it to you. It's long, but we're gonna defend against MAGA lawsuits on GoFundMe. I know everybody's mad at GoFundMe for reasons, but having said that, I put that aside. I could use the help, and it's not a comfortable thing to ask for, but I'd be forever grateful if you would consider anything to help us fight back against this outrageous behavior from the MAGA side of things, who have sued multiple people who have dared speak up. And with that, I'm not going to waste your time. Great show, great conversation. Come here every week. We got a new feature coming out, so I'm really excited. We're announcing it tonight. We're going to have a new set of videos coming out. We're going to start doing, I call hot talks with candidates for office. I'm going to be interviewing Colin Allred next week. I've got my friend Ryan Busey from Montana who's running for governor. We got a number of other famous people, like Eugene Vindman, probably Harry Dunn, my friend. We're going to do these shorter videos, maybe 10, 15 minutes, with these incredible people running for office to represent us, let you get to know them a little bit better. So those will be rolling out this week. So keep your eye out for those on Midas Touch and right on the On Democracy Podcast YouTube channel as well. We're going to put them on there too. Those start this week. So I'm so excited. It's election year, man. We're in the fight. Stay in there. I tell you every week, don't give up hope. Don't let them beat us down. I have my moments, y'all. If you follow me on Substack, I've been kind of quiet for a week because I had a moment. I admit it, but we're back in the fight. We will keep on fighting for this nation, for this democracy. You can do it too. Sign up to fight. Sign up with your local Democratic candidate. Sign up for a petition initiative. Here in Missouri right now, we're trying to get signatures to put reproductive freedom on the ballot next November. Those things matter. They're things you can do. You can do it. Just have faith. We will keep this country free from the authoritarians who want to take over. I'm Fred Wellman right here on the Midas Touch Network and On Democracy Pod. Hope we'll see you next week.